Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the Greene County Commission work session for Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Commissioner Tosteson is going to say the prayer, and I am going to do the pledge. Would you please stand?
Thank you for allowing us to live and be able to serve in a wonderful place like we have here in the Gulf Coast. Thank you for allowing us to bless us. Have your hand upon us today with the decisions that we make and the people that are here to express their opinions and their thoughts, all in your Son Jesus' precious holy name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First up is to receive a request from Coroner Mark Newt.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mark Newt, Glenn County Coroner. I'm here today to ask for your consideration on a pay increase for the coroner's position. According to current state legislation, any population over 35,000 people is local legislation should be used for the pay. For the last 4 years, the Coroners Association has been to the state legislature to try to get all populations of the state covered. My current salary today is $32,224. The last local legislation for a pay increase was in 1994, and that was with Coroner Jimmy Durden. And the last 2 years, the House bills was 625, 646. They went through the House with just a handful of no votes. I think 1 year was 5 and 1 was 4. And each year, last years, when it got to the Senate, the committee chairs would not hear the bill. So it never got to the committee for a vote or any kind of discussion. We've also attached an elected official survey of different populations of coroner salaries in your packet. I'm not sure why we're not included in that because I completed that survey. But yeah, I really don't feel like I should be here today. I believe this is the state legislation should address it for all populations. And according to the Coroners Association, we're the only elected officials whose salaries does not cover all the populations of counties in the state of Georgia. The latest legislation would be for our population. It would increase my salary to $50,000, and that's a population of 75,000 to 99,999, and that's what I would request. So, any questions?
Is that based on state population?
Yes, sir.
And that's your recommendation as well?
Yes, sir. That would be under the House bills was population of 75,000, 999,000, which would cover Glenn County. And
That's line 63.
yes, sir. And next year it's going to be tried again, but I just don't know if I have much hope for it passing next year. Even if it did pass in next year's session, salary wouldn't take effect until January 2027.
Mr. County, is that a legislative decision?
What Mr. Newton's talking about is not legislation, but you're also authorized to increase it locally if you want to, which is what Mr. Newton is asking y'all to do in lieu of waiting to see legislation changes. You do have the authority to increase the salary.
It's not like what we went through with the legislative decision, our local delegation, so it's not a local delegation as far as, the coroner's office elected officials concerned.
That's correct. You don't need, or it doesn't require a local legislative change to increase it.
Thank you then.
Thank you.
We'll consider.
Any other questions? Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, next up is receive a presentation from Optimum Impact as part of Optimum Health Systems review of its on-site orthopedic care program. Chief?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Vinny DeCristofalo, Fire Chief, Glenn County Fire Rescue. Today I introduce Ms. Marissa Brooks with Optimum Impact. Optimum Impact offers a comprehensive workplace healthcare solution aimed at reducing injuries, improving employee wellness, and enhancing productivity. Key benefits of their program include faster return to work rates, reduced overtime costs, decreased injury costs, fewer lost work days, improved morale, and increased retention. So today, Mrs. Brooks is going to do a presentation for your consideration of their program.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for having me. He did a great job explaining what our program is all about. So I'm just going to kind of talk about what we can provide, what we are here to provide, and hopefully maybe share a little bit of my experience with what I've been doing. So I am the City of Statesboro athletic trainer. I've been with them for almost 6 years now, 4 of them full-time and 2 of them as a graduate assistant. So I've been in this field for a little bit as well. So our solution to everything that what we want to provide, I should say, this is not just for fire, police, sheriffs. It's also, I do this for the whole city. So it would be, if we did this, we would like to try to do it for the whole county possibly, because everybody needs care. So some highlights about our solution and what we try to do. We do have the Couch to Academy. Basically what that is when you have new recruits come in, there is a whole program on making sure that they are actually getting trained properly before they even go to Academy, so that you're not worrying about injuries while they're there, injuries before, and even if there is an injury, you have somebody there taking care of them so that they're ready to go to Academy. Other things that we try to make sure we're offering is annual fitness screenings. So making sure that we can take part of the fitness screenings away from you guys or away from having to spend money. So you're already paying for us, might as well let us do the half that we can do. That way you're cutting costs right there and just having to pay for the part that you need the physician for. And then we also have baseline assessments. So not only are we doing the actual fitness components that you guys need, but we're also able to increase that and look into more in-depth things like a functional movement screening, where we go through this 12-step process of different movements that allow us to figure out if you're going to get injured, and if you are, where is your most prominent spot to, so is it your ankles, your knees, that kind of stuff. That way we can start putting an injury prevention program together. Which brings me to the core program, injury prevention, and that's not just, musculoskeletal, that's also cardiovascular. We're looking at nutrition, anything we can do to help you guys so that we're preventing injuries and preventing any medical issues that we can help. We also will do emergency care, evaluation, diagnosis, so we should be able to tell you what you have going on, and depending on if we think we can take care of it, a lot of times we do. We are the ones doing the rehab, the treatment, all that kind of stuff. So anything you would normally do at a physical therapy office and all that, we tend to do it ourselves. We just can't call it physical therapy, we call it rehab. And then also modalities, things like that. Documentation, referral, and also care navigation. Care navigation is a huge part because we do have to send you to the doctor. We have those relationships and we're able to decrease the time it takes to get one of your employees in to see the doctor. So on average, you find typically it takes about 2 weeks to see a doctor. I can pick up the phone and get one of my firefighters, police officers, public works guys, anybody probably within that day, if not the next day, and get the process started way faster, which then of course takes away the times that you have to pay extra for covering for that person's shift and all of that. And then, of course, we also offer job-specific return to work. One thing that we have ran into and found is that the physicians do a wonderful job, but sometimes they don't understand what somebody's returning to work to. It's not always just going back to a desk. And so we also have specific testing to return them back to work properly, so you're not getting that second injury later on because they weren't tested on if they could actually drag somebody who's 250 pounds out of a house, and now they did that, and now that same knee injury they had is now re-injured because we didn't test them on that. So, do I have a button? Oh, it's right there. Awesome. So to kind of go over a little bit of what we have me as a full-time person, and then we also had a person that was part-time for a while, but now she is full-time with the sheriff's department and also in Bullitt County. And so this is kind of a good layout of where you're seeing how many injuries are we seeing, our utilization rates, how many things did I evaluate and actually send to the doctor, and overall I only had to send 21 people in a year, in 12 months, and typically you're going to see way more than that because a lot of times you don't have somebody who can actually evaluate and say, oh, this is just a small ankle sprain, I can work with you, there's no reason to send you. And of those people, I only ended up having to have 6 of them get surgery. And even then I get to work with them as well because we are working with the doctors, so there's cost savings right there as well. But based off of our numbers, just to kind of break it down quickly for you guys, you can see all of my in-house treatments as a full-time, and then all of our part-time person. And then you can also see the time lost. How we calculate that is how much did we actually save on them not being out of work compared to their previous numbers. And then AT Care Navigation is kind of, okay, normally it was 2 weeks before they got seen. So now since they got seen the next day, we cut out about 3 missed shifts right there, and that's how we calculated that. And so that's where you're seeing the cost savings and the benefits of that. And then, of course, the additional features is going to be workers' comp. You have somebody there that can actually help within the workers' comp realm. That's what we're there for. We can deal with the case managers, case adjusters, anything like that. And a lot of times, because you have us here, they're more willing to allow the employees to work with us as they go through their workers' comp process, which then, now that they're working with us, we're decreasing the PT sessions somebody needs. And then now you guys are saving money for you guys as the county, but then also if it is an injury outside of work, then you're also saving your employees money too because they can use us as well even outside of that. And then you're also saving the family's money because how we work is I am able to see spouses, kids, everything like that. So now you're also getting them attention as well. So not only is it helping the county, it's also helping the employees save money too. And we have seen with the benefits of this, for sure within the city of Statesboro, with how much money we've saved yearly, we've actually had the insurance company that does all of their claims for workers' comp and everything like that. They've actually donated machines and equipment and everything to the city because they've saved so much money. They've been trying to invest more into this program so that they can continue saving money. So cost savings we've seen and things we need to kind of cover is per OSHA, the average ankle sprain is about $60,000 just to send them to the doctor, get them taken care of, all of that. And the whole point of having an athletic trainer on site, somebody they can come to, is that we're hopefully going to just cut that all together. Unless it is a higher grade sprain, a lot of times athletic trainers, we do not have to send them. We can do the in-house treatment, they can still work, we can make sure they recover properly, and then now you've just saved $60,000 right there. So, and even if they do get sent, again, you can cut that a lot of times in half due to the fact that we can do the rehab and the treatment in-house and you're not having to pay for that physical therapy. And then you're also cutting out unnecessary visits to the urgent care, to the ER, because they can just come straight to us and we can let them know if they really need to be going to urgent care or to the ER. And a lot of times if I do think they need to be seen by the doctor, again, I just get the doctor on the phone, I've got HR on the other phone, and we're all communicating and we can get them in that day just because of the way we can process everything. And then, of course, we're saving missed shifts. And from what we have found within Georgia, that's about $1,000 for firefighters, $650 for police. So if we can save a shift just by having us here, then we're saving you guys that money every time we save shift from being missed. And so hopefully we get to prevent that and go from there. Trying to make sure you get through it all. So what we're asking typically for this is a fixed price of about $80,000, and that's regardless of the number of employees. But to kind of break that down, if we were just covering firefighters, that's about $588 for your guys' employees, and about $85 per employee if we did the whole entire county. And then for my current utilization where I'm at, the city, just to kind of break it down, 52% fire, 17 police, and then 30% city or county. That does include some of the numbers with our athletic trainer who is with the sheriff's department. But overall, you can see it is used pretty well, and I actually think my city numbers are actually going to go up pretty soon because a lot more people are starting to come see me. Overall, what separates us is we have local physicians. Our athletic trainers live in the community, so that we're making sure we know everybody around us and we're able to help as much as we can. The utilization rate is at about 40%, and so when you have somebody on site, you're actually having your employees want to take care of their body and want to work on it and prevent injuries and go from there. And then we also try to attend the doctor's appointments. That way there's nothing getting lost in between. And then the patient is also having somebody make sure this is what the doctor's saying, this is what the case manager's saying. That way everything comes together properly and the employee's actually getting the care that they deserve. And they have a spokesperson with them as well. I've already mentioned spouses and family members being able to take advantage of it. We also try to go to HR events so that employees get participation, they understand what we're doing. And then also just the biggest part is you have on-site evaluation. That way the the employee is getting all the care that they need and that they deserve. So that is it for my presentation. You guys do have a little bit more in your packets about the breakdown of where the cost savings can come from. There's some examples in there for you guys of things I've gone through. So that first one for the ACL will tell you guys, that is actually a workers' comp one. We ended up saving the city about $83,000 on her just by having me there because they allowed her to do her physical therapy with me. And so instead of having to pay the doctors and the physical therapists, all of that, they actually were able to save that and just be able to go on there. And it got the employee back a lot faster. Other than that, the rest of the Excel is just to kind of break down for you guys of this number, if we saved this many shifts, it already pays for the program. If we saved this many injuries from going to the ER, it already pays for the program. So just to kind of give you a small breakdown when you do get a chance to look over that. But that is what we're here for. We're wanting to take care of those who take care of us, and that's everybody within the county. And any questions for me? Sorry I talked so much.
You're fine. You packed a lot in.
I did, yes.
If we decided to go with this program, from where would you operate?
So what we would do is we would make sure that your athletic trainer is actually here within Brunswick. So that would be something you guys would have to figure out if it's all of the county. A lot of times we tend to find offices that they can have people come into. Some counties and cities already have gyms, and they'll place they'll place them in a gym and have a little section for them so that they do have the equipment and availability to. But really, that is something that you guys can kind of decide where's the best place for them so all employees have access to them. But when it comes to the doctors, which doctor is the closest? Stroud. So Dr. Stroud would probably be the one that would be the closest for you guys, but it looks like you guys have an answer for maybe where they would go, or you guys just...
No, we're
okay, yeah, sorry, my bad. But yeah, so it'd kind of be where you guys think would be the best place for them, depending on which employees they're serving, whether it's the whole county or if it's specific departments.
And do you have a person in mind that would be our trainer, or?
From my understanding, I'm looking at my boss. We have one in mind.
We have a girl that we're trying to recruit locally. If we
Yes.
Go to the mic.
You already got
I'm sorry. So we do have a girl, Ty Butler. I'm the director of sports medicine.
You think your name?
I'm Ty Butler. I'm director of sports medicine for Optimum Health System. We do have a girl in mind that we can try to recruit. We just hadn't had approval to do this program down here. We do have a new orthopedic office here also, so we're just trying to be good community partners.
Where is that office?
It's, yeah.
Right. Chief Finney, do you have an idea of how many accidents that could have been last year? Maybe the chief with the county can, Chief Hebner as well, a ballpark of, minor
County Commission. So last year, 2024, we had a total of 58 accidents total. Out of those accidents, we had 4 settlements also during that year, which I brought to the board for approval for workers' comp settlements for workplace injuries.
This was county police, county
This is
fire.
total county
Total
accidents.
county.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, but Dwayne, how many of those actually would be kind of related to what we're talking about here? Some of those are accidents that occur that aren't necessarily related to sports injuries, right? So we're talking more sports injuries here.
But,
Do you have any idea what that would be?
no,
Because I think with that number, you're kind of throwing everybody in. So, Chief, do you have any?
Well, I can tell you currently I have 3 on workers' comp light duty from injuries that probably could have been prevented from a program like this. One still hasn't returned to work. It's been months due to knee surgery from an injury occurring on duty. So I believe a program such as this, not only from starting off with preventative, but then the fact that they can help the county navigate the workers' comp system quicker, and then rehabbing and getting them back to work faster. So we're seeing an extreme delay in access to workers' comp physicians and assessment once the injury occurs.
My question is, does this pertain to on the job injuries or off the job injuries?
So the injuries that go into workers' comp happen at the workplace.
I'm talking about what they would be helping us with.
Sorry. Yeah.
Both or?
Sorry. Yeah, both. That's what we would plan to offer is for both. So even if it was off the job, we would even help with care navigation and making sure the employee gets taken care of for that. Because the way we look at it is if somebody did, since sprained ankle was what we were using as an example, somebody did sprain their ankle at home and now they're not coming to work and now you are having to figure out how to cover that shift because they can't make it to work, then you guys are still losing out on some money. But then also the employee is going to lose out on money too as well because they're out as well. So the whole point is to also help the employees recover quicker for themselves so they're not losing a lot of money, but also then you guys aren't as well. So what we would provide is for both. And I know you had just asked, I'm trying to remember names, but I also should Fallon. Oh, okay. Mr. Fallon. Sorry. We do definitely focus on musculoskeletal injuries and everything, but we also are able to cover a lot more things as well. So when our police officer, I'm sure some of you guys have seen some of the articles when he actually got shot. I actually played a big role at the beginning because we found out he was not getting the care that he deserved in there, and he actually kept getting pushed back and had some problems with the doctors that he was working with at that time. And I was actually able to talk to the case manager and let them know that we had a doctor that did a lot of in his previous, before he was here, did a lot of work with military and stuff, and he said he would be more than willing to take over everything, even though he's more orthopedic, and he did take over everything, and everything went way smoother. He was able to perform every single surgery, and so, yes, it wasn't necessarily musculoskeletal, but even gunshot wounds, I was able to be there for him and do the care navigation so that he wasn't getting pushed off, and he was actually getting the care he deserved, so.
I have a couple of questions here. I'm looking at your, I'll call it the care wheel
Yeah.
here, the diagram showing where you might engage. A couple of things. I heard you say something about evaluation.
Yes.
And I presume, based on what I've heard so far, you engage in the process
Yes.
after an employee has had an event.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What
So-
about prior to that? I mean,
Yeah.
do you offer training or some program that is ahead of an injury,
Yeah.
that employees can learn how to strengthen their core or leg muscles, et cetera, to avoid these two key injuries that affect our employees' knees and lower back?
Lower back, yep. Yes, we also do injury prevention, and so a lot of times it kind of depends on the department. So, like my fire department, they like to do overall sessions together where they're working on core, mobility, strength, everything like that. And then I do have other departments where they leave it up to the employee, and I will have employees come in and actually work on everything with me prior to injury to make sure that they're preventing those. So a lot of times it did come down to department, but there's also things like where I do a morning movement routine with my public works and public utility guys, and they all come in, and every other week I teach 3 strengthening exercises, 3 stability exercises, and 3 stretches that they can be doing out and about or at home, so that we are preventing those injuries that are focused on where we're seeing the injuries occur. So there is tons of prevention that we do as well. And like I said, it's a lot right now with what I'm doing, dependent on the department, but we are here to prevent. So that is core, working on muscle strength. That is also going and evaluating where you guys are at and seeing how the work environment is. And we can see, hey, because of the way that you're bending over here, right here, you're going to get a back injury in another year or so because you're not properly lifting the way that you need to lift here, or you're not properly holding the tool that you need to be holding in a way that will prevent the injury. So it's also about going out there, and I do that a lot, and seeing what they're doing out there so we can prevent the movements that even cause it as well.
So kind of summarize what you said, it's yes.
Yes, yeah, sorry. I love this program, if you can't tell, so I apologize for the long-winded answer.
And just one follow-up, that's inclusive in the program that you're offering.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And y'all are part of Optum Orthopedics.
So I specifically work under Optum Health System, but Optum Health System and Optum Orthopedics, they coincide together, and so they're together. But yes, we are a part of all of it together, but Optum Impact is under Optum Health System, but all of the doctors that we would send anybody to are within Optum Orthopedics.
So if their surgeries would be required, it would be under Optum Orthopedics.
It would be, technically speaking, I can't force anybody to go to Optum, but the hope, of course, would be to have them on your guys' board. They are? Okay, perfect. So with them being on your board, we would like them to go there, and we would prefer them to go there, but again, I can't technically legally tell them they have to go there, but the hope is to be that you guys would push for that, because then I can do way more care navigation. I can see all their files. We have the doctors on speed dial, and from my understanding, are they the only ones on your guys' board? For now, yes. So even since they are the only ones on the board, then if you had an injury, they'd be going there anyway, so. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you're working with City of Statesboro.
Yes.
Are there other municipalities you're working with?
I am just with the City of Statesboro, but we do have one athletic trainer with the Sheriff's Department in Bullitt County. Right now she's just with them. I know the county really wants him, but wants her as well, the whole county. But the Sheriff's Department loved her so much they don't want to share her. So.
How much space to set up what you would suggest we use? How much space do you need?
Overall, if an athletic trainer is as good as we should be at our job, in general, you could probably put a wall right here and they should be able to do all of their job in a room about that big. Where I'm at, I've got whole gym access, and it makes it a lot easier to do physical therapy stuff, but we're very creative people, and that's also why we're good hires, because we will get as creative as we need to make sure that the patient returns in every way possible that they need to. So in general, I wouldn't say they need a huge space, but depending on how many employees you're hoping to have this effect, I would say, probably a good, put the walls up right here, that would be a good size room to be able to evaluate as many people as they need to and do everything that they would like. But like I said, we're creative little bugs, so we will figure it out however we need to.
And you said that would extend to the family of employees
Yes.
as well. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've also had to, I'll work with spouses, kids, and a lot of times, surprisingly, the parents trust us a little bit more, which sounds a little crazy, but they want their kids to be doing their rehab with us as well. And so I've also done a ton of rehab and returned their kids to their sports as well. So.
okay. Chief Benny, do you have a space in mind?
Well, ideally with new Station 9, with the athletic area that we're putting in there, would be a good spot that they could incorporate this into. So that's about a 400 square foot gym that we're including in that station build. So that'd be one option, and then we can see what else their needs are as we go forward with that. Part of the problem would be if we're using it countywide, yeah, that may be a problem. But we I think somewhere in the county we can find a space that would suit this need.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Questions? You have any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, next up, receive an update from Jamie McCurry on behalf of the Georgia Ports Authority.
Thank you. Hey, good afternoon. So hopefully I got my instructions correct. We do a little abbreviated state of the port here. I know that some of you, maybe most of you, attended the state of the port earlier this year. So I'll do this, go through it kind of fast and give you an opportunity for questions. So I'd like to start with a video. Hopefully it'll play. There's been a lot of expansion on Curls Island in particular over the last few years. See a lot of that video includes continuous construction. So when Griff Lynch did this at the State of the Port again, he made a point of kind of illustrating the fact that we have two primary areas of cargo. We have container cargo that's in Savannah, and we have mostly roll-on, roll-off cargoes down here in Brunswick, Colonel's Island. Interestingly, Savannah has the largest container terminal in the Western Hemisphere, and Brunswick has the largest railroad terminal of the same geography, Western Hemisphere. So we, by focusing on those, it's allowed us to grow both businesses. So over the last 20 plus years, Brunswick has gone from 5th place to 1st place in the country in terms of volume. So difference in what I said a second ago about the size of the facility compared to the volume of cargo. But fortunately, Brunswick has had the capacity that we've been able to grow into. So that's really led to this position here with Brunswick being in 1st place. And you can see this past year in total roll-on, roll-off units, Brunswick was just under 1 million units. And of that, 841 was cars. A lot of people just say cars. We also had quite a few in heavy equipment. So you're looking at here almost 30,000 tons of heavy machinery when you look at whether it's JCB, CAT, or any other brands that you see over there. That's coming off those ships or going on to them. Of course, we've got Mayor's Point and East River terminals that are here on the peninsula. I think if I click the button, we'll get a picture. Yeah, sorry. So Mayor's Point, part of some of the expansion that's occurred at Colonel's Island has also occurred simultaneously at Mayor's Point, where we moved some business from Savannah down to Brunswick. And so the new warehouse, which is in the foreground of this picture of the terminal, was to give us more space there to handle cargo that moved from Savannah, and that complemented the machinery in particular that moved from Savannah down to Colonel's Island. Then, of course, the East River Terminal, that's where Logistic is our tenant. Actually, today our board approved just over $11 million to improve the entire water delivery system in this terminal. So I know that that probably makes some folks feel a little more comfortable about the ability to have better fire protection and other uses of water there in the future. Why are we growing? I don't think a group like this needs much explanation, but demographics of the country and what we're seeing in terms not only of population shifts, but what's coming with that in terms of manufacturing. We'll get to the auto brands in a minute, but on the manufacturing side, we've seen a lot of relocation to the south. The vessels are also getting larger. So I'll click back a second so you can see the smaller ships that we've had here, 4,000 to 6,000 unit ships. Now our major customers are building ships that are up to nearly 11,000 units. Fortunately, the ships can still fit in Brunswick without major alterations to the port, but there are a couple of adjustments that will be undertaken by the Corps of Engineers over the next few years to give us some better navigation within the channel. Not deepening, just adjustments to the turning area, a couple of turning areas. Then on the land side, I'm jumping ahead of myself here, but the navigation channels, two particular spots where there are going to be bend wideners so that the larger vessels have a better radius for turning, not turning around, but just making the turns. And then off of Colonel's Island, we'll be expanding the turning basin where those ships do turn around. Certainly with the 10,000 plus unit vessels, and you'll see in a second a 4th berth being added to Colonel's Island, we need that expanded turning basin. So this, call it Brunswick Harbor Modification Project. The Corps of Engineers has the task to get that done, and we hope that they'll start construction on that in the next year. I mentioned berth. Also today, our board approved the construction of the fourth berth. It's been permitted for several years. We actually do have a federal grant that is supporting some of the cost of construction here, but it was timely now to bring this to the board for their approval. This is just under $100 million approval from our board, so that project should start construction by the first quarter of 26. On the land side, a great deal of the construction is already complete in terms of particularly our expansion of leased area to Wallenius Wilhelmsen and the new buildings on the north side of the island. But in the foreground of this picture is what we call Parcel B, or in the kind of yellow highlight. And then the blue highlight is illustrating our rail yard. I got a couple of slightly updated pictures because Parcel B is about 50% complete already today, and the rail yard is as well. This is the buildings on the north side of Colonel's Island. That allows the heavy machinery to come off. This is on the south side where they can do customization of that machinery. And you can see the difference in the pavement there. That's all concrete to handle that high and heavy cargo. It can be delivered by rail, it can be delivered by truck, and of course goes to and from the vessel. Wait for the video to continue to play. It's more exciting than me. A lot of tractors. In that area where those three kind of half dome shaped buildings, that's where Nissan primarily is located. That's a new business there. So connectivity, globally, Brunswick and Savannah are very well positioned, particularly as we see source shifting, if you will, into Southern Asia and the Indian subcontinent. A lot of those ships will come, well, through the Suez Canal when it's safe, or around Africa, which allows Georgia to be an ideal spot for vessels to call as their last port of call out or first port of call in. And so we're seeing, in addition to the demographics of the U.S., which are allowing for more of the manufacturing in the South, it well positions us on the water side to handle that cargo. So these are just a few of the manufacturing facilities in the Southeast that are customers of ours that are, of course, brands I think most of you are quite familiar with. And on the rail side of that, I guess as a bit of an illustration, when you've got the export cargo or vehicles and machinery coming out of a plant, they oftentimes get on a train to come to the port to go outbound. The opposite is most of the case when it comes to imports. Cars, the port itself is basically the distribution center for automobiles. So they get on a truck to go to a dealership from the port. They very seldom get on a train to go in high volume for inland distribution. But the business here, again, on the manufacturing side, we've had the demand to expand the rail today. It essentially stops on the north side of the island, north of Highway 17. The rail does come to the south side. We've not had a yard for unloading cars until now. So that future rail, the first phase of that is actually complete. We'll start operating on the south side there in July. The second phase of that is a much larger project. I think my video will show the full scale. So that's obviously the schematic, but most of what you see right there is done now. Phase one. Perhaps it's interesting that by far our largest export automobile brand is Mercedes. It's not General Motors or Ford. Glad to have those as well. Mercedes is number one. So that's what phase two looks like. It not only expanded capacity on the rail side, but also gives us that grade separation so that we don't have any trains and cargo interacting with one another along the island. Both of those projects, both the phase one that will open here in the summer, and of course phase two, not only will they be good for volume on the island, but it'll improve the switching of the trains, where today on occasion they back up away from Colonel's Island. This will allow the trains to pull all the way onto the island and do the switching that they do and cutting of the cars so that they pull all the way onto the island, not sit and go back and forth off the island, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we've had some, comments about it, and we talked with y'all about, where it leaves, once it leaves Colonel's Island and it gets over onto the, mainland, and it blocks traffic into certain communities.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate you reaching out to me on those occasions. But this is actually still a dated picture because this is done now. Everything kind of to the left-hand half of the blue shaded area is complete, and the balance, like I say, phase 2 will pave to the right side of the rail and add more rail. We'll close by adding that March was our busiest month in Colonel's Island history, 91,000 units. A lot of that was some advance orders ahead of tariffs. April was the opposite of that. It was not as good a month. We do think we're going to be very busy again this summer as we see some of these tariffs kind of come and go into effect and how the customers adjust to those things. But with that, that's kind of the highlights of what's been going on and where we're headed right now with our expansion plans down here. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm curious as to how many jobs have been added since you started the expansion on the south side of Highway 17.
That is a great question and one that I wish that I had a specific answer to. But on Colonel's Island, I can tell you we've added a handful of police officer positions, but all of the real work done down, I should say real work, and it's being disrespectful to our employees, but the processes are all tenants, and I don't have a count of their growth down there. I believe it's safe to say that it's in the 100 kind of range, but I don't want to tell Phil.
Is it possible to get that number? I think
I'm
the
sure I
community
could
would be
ask
very interested.
our
in it.
tenants about that, sure.
And I just want to say what an asset it is to have Georgia Ports Authority at Colonel's Island and what it's doing to add to our community. And we're excited about the growth. We're excited about Fort Worth, and we want to be good partners.
Thank you. Well, you are, and we want to be good partners with you as well. Appreciate it.
Jamie, how much of the Hyundai plant up in Bryan County is going to affect our port down here?
So that's another good and fairly common question, frankly, because when you consider that an investment of that size, being that close, you think there's going to be a lot of cars coming out of that coming to the port. But the existence of that facility is primarily for domestic consumption. So again, even though it's an international brand, got a location here, because they're building models that are the models of vehicles that are the high volume consumption vehicles in the U.S. market. So at least initially, almost all of that business is for U.S. consumption. Perhaps, as with the Kia plant in West Georgia, over time that could change some, and I think it will. They've told us to expect future exports, but for right now, it's all domestic consumption. We do see some export finished vehicles, particularly the Telluride, coming out of West Point, but for now, nothing export out of the plant. In the future, perhaps more, as that becomes more of a hub for their EV production beyond just Southeast United States.
Mr. McCurry, on that railhead, how many rails can they park there? Is it 180?
I believe today it is, and I'm not sure of the total number on the high side in the future.
And I know Mercedes brings most of the rails in here now for export. Is there any anticipation from GM or Ford them railing vehicles in for export?
Well, again, keep them perhaps a little bit higher than Nissan. Be right behind Mercedes in terms of on the export side, and there are other manufacturers that we hope to grow that business with, regardless of what manufacturer that is by company name. If it's on the train, it is a U.S. produced vehicle that's going out of the port. So.
Awesome project. I saw it this week. It looks great.
It does look nice.
I've got a little side note I want to share. I had to go up to the port in Savannah. I guess it's been about close to 3 years ago now when I first became commissioner, and met with the director of the port there. And I met Jamie. And Jamie was there, and he was in blue jeans and steel-toed boots and an orange vest and a hard hat on, and he was dirty, and he was working, and I thought, wow, I said, yeah, and he was so nice, he showed me where I needed to go, And that's my first encounter with you, and I just thought you were one of the guys, worker guys there. And then about a week later, he was the keynote speaker at the State of the Port luncheon that was on Jekyll Island. I just saw him with a hard hat on and dirty. So you are very diverse. You know it from the bottom to the top.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson. I appreciate that. I hope that my people watching.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. All right, next up, receive a presentation from Adam Sanchez on behalf of the Department of Public Health regarding the expansion of the public health facility to include a dental clinic.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Adam Sanchez. I serve as the County Nurse Manager for the Glenn County Health Department. I'm here to talk a little bit about dental health in our community and what the Department of Public Health is trying to achieve at the building on 4th Street. Currently in our community, there are plenty of options available for private insurance customers to receive dental care in the community. Most offices have a pretty heavy load. It's not uncommon for you to experience a month or two, maybe 6 months wait to get a non-emergent appointment. Focusing on at the health department primarily serves those residents who have Medicaid or no insurance for dental care. Dental care is so important. We know that the healthiness of our mouths contribute to so much about our health, whether it be heart disease, stroke, how to manage your diabetes, how to repair after surgery, the nutritions that we take in. So we really want to make sure we're doing our best thing to promote health as part of our mission at the health department. Right now, we have a plan for phase 1 in our current building without any additional expansion. We plan to renovate 4 rooms in there to offer 4 dental suites with another room for sterilization to allow us to take care of adult and pediatric patients. We will be able to serve insured customers, non-insured, and those in Medicaid. And just a little side note on Medicaid, when we started exploring the feasibility of a dental clinic in our community at the Department of Public Health, our district health director basically went on a secret shopper mission and called around seeing if he had a child who needed, dental care with Medicaid, CareSource, how long and if he could get an appointment. Most offices told him not available in our community. There may be 1 or 2 places, but primarily most of our residents are having to commute over 60 miles to get that dental care that they're looking for. Most of them are going to Savannah, some are going to Jacksonville. Here's a little snapshot of what phase 1 will look like. In the very back of our clinic, down our main hallway, you'll see there'll be 4 rooms there highlighted in purple, or the equipment's in purple. They'll be able to a full dental suite, adult, pediatric setup. At the bottom there's another section for a Panorex X-ray machine, so we can do the complete studies for our dentists to take a look at and verify your teeth are healthy. There's also some options available where teledentistry could be involved as another project that we're working on. But I'm here today just mostly to let you know about phase 1 and to request your support and approval of the future expansion of phase 2 of our dental clinic, where we would have to add additional space to the exterior of our building. The section highlighted in yellow is the current building without any construction. The blank rooms below that are just white, that's another section of our care center for Department of Public Health. The remaining rooms at the top you see are additional rooms to allow us to accommodate demand. We anticipate that we're going to be extremely busy. The demand's going to be extremely high, and we want to be able to get people in without an extremely long wait. And the other thing that this will help in our community is a lot of people, when they don't have access to dental care, they flood in for pain control, and they primarily will visit an emergency department or an urgent care center. And if we can alleviate some of that stress off the health system, that's going to help with some of the overcrowdedness in the ER, hopefully reducing ER wait times and getting people in who really are having an emergency. So basically, all I'm asking for today is your support on phase 2, so for the future expansion of the dental clinic.
Any questions, gentlemen?
How many patients do you see on a daily basis?
For core public healthcare service on a daily basis,
The facility that you're referring to?
strictly dental or
No, just
in general, all patients. For public health, we probably see about 70, anywhere from 60 to 75 patients a day. Now that's on core public health. We also host the Department of Vital Records there, so if you need your birth or death certificates, you can come in there. That's separate. They probably see another 30, 40 people on average on average per day. So
on the clerical side.
yes, sir. And then we have the WIC program too. That's included in my number of 60 to 75 people a day for the supplemental dietary program we offer.
Always seem busy, I know that.
Thank you, Mr.
A
Thompson.
few questions, please.
Yes, sir.
So in phase 1, would you have one dentist providing that service?
Currently, yeah, we'll have to have one dentist, and we hope to have one dental hygienist. Most of the work that we're going to be able to do, Mr. Duncan, is we'll be able to provide dental hygiene. And with a dental exam, a normal customer will come in and have to see the dentist once a year, but the remaining visits could be followed, the cleanings could be followed by a hygienist. We have a similar office at our Chatham County Health Department on Eisenhower Street. They have a dental suite. We have one dental health director, Dr. Deb Smith, and she runs the entire clinic with the help of her hygienist.
So how many patients in phase 1 would you expect to service on a monthly or annual basis?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have that answer for you, Mr. Duncan, but I could definitely get back with the commissioners and get that together for you.
And just to follow on with phase 2, like when do you expect to reach your maximum capacity for phase 1, and then that would help us understand when phase 2 is really necessary.
Right.
And I presume your ask is for capital to construct the building to house these suites.
Currently, right now, we're not asking for any additional funding. Phase 1 will be managed completely through the funding of the Department of Public Health. We'll be utilizing our own money for expenditures. We're going to be using a McCall firm out of Valdosta to help with the architecture of the building. We expect phase 1 will be done in roughly 12 months. I would assume in 6 months we would probably quickly outgrow the 4-room suite that we're planning.
If I may, Dr. Reddick. So, sorry, Bonzo Reddick, I'm the District Health Director and Chief Medical Officer for the Health Department. So I just wanted to comment that we actually have received a pretty substantial grant for teledentistry and dentistry services in underserved areas, and that's how we were able to fund the expansion that we had this year. That also includes an initiative we're working on, which is the teledentistry program with the school system. So that, like Adam was saying, you can have a hygienist go in, and we actually have equipment where a dentist can be remote and actually see inside the kid's mouth with resolution that's better than the naked eye. And so so we really just need a dentist available in the health department, and we can actually have multiple hygienists if need be, even in a remote site. Now, if that funding is not available for the second phase, I have checked with our CFO, and we do have enough funding earmarked and set aside for this expansion if we don't receive further support from the state. So we would not be requesting any money. We're just because it's county building, we're just requesting permission for the modifications, not any funding from you all.
Thank you.
This would be a full-service facility that, as far as dental care goes?
Yes, sir.
Cavities and
fillings.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Cleanings.
Crowns, what all is it, whatever all involved in when I have to go to the dentist.
Sorry.
I think Dr. Reddick has a better follow-up.
Yes, and also we're actually configuring it for gas and nitrous oxide as well, so that if somebody needs conscious sedation while they're getting procedures done, that'll be the capability will be there.
Very nice.
Any other questions? Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
I'll just add, while Adam's here and Dr. Rex is here, we received a presentation, Public Works Facilities, and just this is a great opportunity for our community, and the best part of it is right now they're not coming with their hand open. So I saw your faces when you first started talking about expansion. So I knew that question was coming, Commissioner Duncan. But so the thing of what staff will have to work on is what kind of modification of the building agreement we have to have from a contractual standpoint. Other than that, I think it's just mostly administrative. So the facilities team is in fully support of what they're proposing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gentry. Okay, you're up next. Receive an update on the Blythe Island Regional Park Strategic Plan. General?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As part of the county certified county manager program or certified public manager program that participated in over the last year, one of the things we had to do is a capstone project. As part of that review, I looked at Blythe Island Regional Park, looking at from a strategic standpoint. Specifically, what we saw was a decrease in the occupation rate over a period of time. So how could we get that occupation rate up as part of a strategic plan? So we dove into that. And with our Director of Parks, Lisa Gerganis, is here. Her and her team assisted with this project along with Mr. Hagan, Mr. Gleason, and a plethora of other staff just providing some additional input and research for me on that. So we looked at the current conditions. You got 97 full service and 24 primitive camping sites. The occupational rate right now is about 34.7%. So, and that's combined with the two campground services. And we looked at the cost recovery rate for the past 5 years, and on average it's 95%. It peaked in 21. Obviously, that was a period of time when everybody wanted to had cabin fever, wanted to get out of the house, and our governor allowed us people to go camping. So a lot of people did that. So all campgrounds across the state saw an increase in their occupation rate and cost recovery rate. Then we saw a low last year in 24 of 81.9%. So that's kind of what stirred me to look at and say, what's going on here? What do we need to do to make sure we're staying at a high rate? So obviously a desired condition for the park is we had 100% cost recovery rate. And looked at a time period to do that in. I kind of correlated. My theory is everything occupational rate is related to the expenses that we have for the park, and that we could easily just cover all the costs with the increase in occupational rate. That was my theory. It was blown after I got into it a little bit, and I'll explain as we go. So that was the amount that we had to, for every 1% in occupational rate, we had to, it would cover about $8,000 in expenses given FY22. So we looked at what is the gap that we were needing to achieve. So going back and looking at 24, we basically had a gap of 29%. So it required, in order, doing some math, I had to pull out my algebra again. Doing some math, it required a 64.81% occupational rate to achieve 100% cost recovery. And so once I did that math, so well, let's look and see what the other parks are doing. So we came up with a project description. Obviously, we want to achieve 100% cost recovery. We developed a strategic plan to focus on near-term, high-value and low-cost initiatives. We looked at developing a targeted marketing plan, and we conducted a budget review to eliminate or reduce unnecessary expenditures. So everything is tied to the strategic plan. So there's a link that this Blythe Island Park strategic plan links into our overall county plan with the goal of developing a connected community where families live, work, and play. And then The one that Mr. Gaines in Recreation Parks leads is Advanced, Vibrant, and Accessible Park Facilities. So we looked at multiple parks around the area, around the state, and up into South Carolina. These were the parks that we selected, mostly state parks. One and further research what we did using cell phone data, and I got a company that demo cell phone capabilities who visits the park over the course of last year. There were 111,000 visits to Blythe Island Regional Park. Of that, of those 111,000 visits, there were 39,000 unique individuals. So that's not necessarily 111,000 people. Of those 111,000 visits, there were 39,000 different people with their cell phones that entered the park. So what this basically told us, and further you'll see on the next slide, is that this is a more or less a long weekend type campground, mostly a regional approach, hence the Blythe Island Regional Park. This heat map is also from cell phone data that shows us where those individuals are coming from that camp at Blythe Island Regional Park over the course of 2024. And still a spattering up into Georgia, and then there's a spattering across the country, which I'm not showing on this slide, but the bulk of them are within a couple hours drive.
Are those numbers up or down from the previous year?
That's just a 1 year look, Commissioner Toss, and so just of where they come from. So this, to answer you, these are the occupation rates for a period of 2020 to 2024. And what it compares is all of those state parks that we looked at. Blythe Island is the lowest blue line that you see there. Working up is Magnolia Springs, Skidaway, Fort McAllister, Crooked River, and Jekyll Island were all of the comparisons. So as you see, for Blythe Island, we're fairly consistent, fairly flat in our occupational rate. The highest being Jekyll Island. They calculate a much higher occupational rate on an annual basis. And again, some of them have RVs only, and some have RVs and the Pioneer camps. So we'll show you where the difference. Let me orient you to this slide just a little bit. So this is the occupation rate versus the cost recovery rate with marina operations included in the cost and revenue accordingly. So if you look at the blue line and you look at the darker orange line, the blue line represents the occupational rate that I showed you on the previous slide. The orange line relates to the cost recovery rate. So obviously we're below a cost recovery rate of 80% here. And then the gray line represents what is a required occupational rate to achieve 100% cost recovery rate. So you see with marine operations, when we include the marine operations, we've got to be somewhere in the 60 to 80% range in order to achieve 100% cost recovery as far as the occupational rate. And then I want to show you the next one. So if you back out the expenses of the marina, and here's where the theory kind of got blown when I started looking at the expenses of the park. Really, the campground itself actually does pretty well from a recovery of its costs. The expense is really in what's costing us is the marina operations. So the marina itself, average expenditures, and I'm using about a 5-year average, is about $275,000 with revenue only about $100,000. The cost is in the personnel to operate the lift. That's really where the expense is 7 days a week. So when you remove that expenditure, keeping our using the same level of occupation rate. You can see what changes is in order to achieve 100% cost recovery, what it does is lowers the occupational rate that is required to achieve that 100% cost recovery. So we're dropped down to somewhere around the 50% range, 52% occupational rate. So if we achieve that, we're going to achieve 100% cost recovery for the campground operations and the general park maintenance. It doesn't cover the marina. So what this tells you and tells us is that we're subsidizing marina operations, and basically is what we're doing. And that's okay if that's something that you as the Board of Commissioners want to continue to do and make sure that, and that's going to fluctuate a little bit every year just depending on the costs we have, but overall we're subsidizing the experience of going through and utilizing the marina and the bait access and access to the boat ramp, fishing on the docks and everything. So that's kind of what that shows us there. And then what it also shows Ms. Gerganis is she needs to increase her occupational rate in order to really get to that 100% for the campground and general park operations, less marina. So it gives her a goal as well to achieve. So what we did as a part of all of that was doing the research, exercise through the public manager course called Turn the Curve. So we looked at root causes, what are some things that turn the curve, what works to turn the curve, and I'm going through this a little fast because I know that you've had quite a few presentations today. All to say that we came up with some group ideas, so got a peer group that in my class, I briefed the problem set to them. They provided some ideas based on their community's experience. Did the same thing with a group from Ms. Gerganis' staff, and we talked about different things that could be kind of the group think to answer how do we increase the occupational rate. We looked at things that we need to fix. Awareness is probably the biggest. Outside of the regional area, maybe not enough people know about Blythe Island Regional Park. What are some things that we could mitigate or avoid? You know, the hardest thing about it is the more you work hard to bring in a higher level of occupational rate, you're going to have more staff that you need to operate at that higher level, and or overextending staff if you do particular special events or things like that. So we also did a SWOT analysis looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to achieving our goal. And then one of the, I think the best thing we did was we took versus reinventing the wheel back in 22, I believe it was, Blythe Island Park in conjunction with staff and the park board at the time. They did a visioning study which listed multiple projects that potentially could be done at the park. So we didn't reinvent the wheel, we just went straight down that list and said, all right, let's do a cost-benefit analysis of those particular projects that came out of that visioning study and see where they land on this. And so this is after several hours of weeding through this and seeing where these fell, we looked at complexity and business value. So obviously a low complexity is fairly or high complexity is a little harder to do. Low business value, maybe we don't get the most bang for our buck. So we kind of divided them up, and this was our approach at where these fell. The first thing we looked at is how can we win customers. So obviously, if we get the marketing right, we're getting people to the park, more people to the park. How do we keep them coming back? So that's what we want to do first. So the customer experience initiatives are the things that we focus on, things that we could be doing right away. And so in conclusion, what we did, we came up with this. Our near term, we've got to have a marketing plan. We've got to initiate some funding there, so we're doing a better job of marketing the park to areas greater than what you saw on that heat map, which is within an hour or two of Glenn County. Wayfinding throughout the park and entrance, just making it, when your first impression is a lot of what brings people back. So that first impression when you come into the park, improve entrance and wayfinding, I think is a good part of that we need to do. Winning customers, focused efforts. So those projects that fell in that winning customers that were high business value, low complexity, those are the things we want to focus on first. And a lot of those are not necessarily monetary costs. So there's things that can be done of value or they're low cost. Long term, one of the things that could be very beneficial to this, to bring in larger groups that we discuss as part of this. So there are a lot of camping groups and a lot of association type groups that are looking for places to conduct their quote association, camping association or RV association meetings while they're camping at an existing place. So constructing a community building. The benefit of that, if you do a community building there on the park, the benefit of that as well is it can be used throughout for the community as a whole. It's not just for the individuals that are camping there. So it's a dual purpose. And then looking at customer-focused efforts on the long range, those are things that are customer experience projects that maybe are low complexity, low business value, things that we just don't feel like need to be done right away, but could also add to the customer experience. And there's some things that are a little bit harder to do that I think we've got to make sure that we're funded appropriately to construct, and then we're funded appropriately to maintain. Cabins, for example. Once you build those cabins, which is on the list, you've got to be funding it at a level to maintain them at a high enough level so that people want to come back to use them. And you got to have a maintenance plan in place to make sure that they're staying at a high level of use. So those are ones just, maybe we don't invest in those right away. We work on the lower cost elements to get our occupational rate up to the level that we want to achieve. And then after that, we start looking at those larger cost projects. So I know that was very fast, but I did want to share with you the results of that study over really the past 6 months. And subject to your questions, that's my presentation.
Could you go back about several screens where you were talking about the different parks and the levels of rates that they charge? Not that one. Keep right there. And you were talking about, you mentioned Jekyll Island, you mentioned Magnolia Springs, things such as that. I've been to those, and when you refer to like Jekyll Island's higher rate, their higher rate, in my opinion, is because they have beaches and access and restaurants and hotels and all the other stuff that goes along that can afford that. Magnolia Springs doesn't really do the RV thing like we seem like we're trying to concentrate on, but they do have cabin rentals and they seem to be, I guess they have to charge more. That's why the line's a little higher than ours. But I do believe that, if we enhance the park, that the park, such as cabins and stuff like that, you mentioned that you want to push that to a later date, but I do believe that would enhance and bring more people in. You said 39,000 people. New people are phone, but there's a lot of locals that come here.
Yes, sir.
And that makes up the difference between the 39,000 and the 117,000 that you.
Well, the 111,000 was just cell phones that actually just came into the park over the course of 2024. The 39,000 represents. So if your cell phone, you went to the park 5 times over the course of the year, it would only count as one, so that you're in that 39,000.
And this is parks are a service that, as a commission and as a government, that we provide to the citizens of Glenn County. It's not, I mean, we always want them to be profitable as much as we can, but this is something that they pay taxes for, and they want to utilize, and we want to provide the best service and the best items that we can provide for them. And I'm this is in my district, and I do want to see this park grow and develop, and I think with that it will show profit, or it will not be in the deficit, and that's the way I look at it. And you made mention between you were comparing it to state parks versus this regional park. What is the difference?
So we were comparing it with campgrounds. So this does not include cabin occupation rates. This is campground to campground. So I just wanted to clarify that. So we just wanted to see where do we stack amongst the state parks that have similar campgrounds. And for
are we focusing on an RV park with Blind Island? Is that what staff is really trying to move towards, and making it more of an RV park than it is anything else?
No, sir. So there are still people that enjoy the pioneer camping. So that is still an element of Blythe Island Park. All it was is we saw a dip in the occupational rate, so it's looked at an opportunity to say, maybe what's causing that dip? Can we increase it? And to your point, Commissioner Tossin, absolutely. And parks is one of those that is typically a subsidized department. But if we can minimize that subsidization, then that's what we want to try to do. She's still way above the national average as far as cost recovery rate for parks. So national average is about 27%, and Lisa, you're at 30 overall department, 34, 35%.
32, 33,
Yeah, so she's really doing well from that standpoint. So overall, no matter what we do, we're going to subsidize our park system. That's just the nature of it. But this was just a way to look at, hey, what are some ways where we could bump up that occupation rate a little bit more and bring in a little bit more revenue? Because obviously, if you want to do more things, it's going to cost more. And so how we correlate that with occupation?
I'm curious as to why Laura Walker at Waycross wasn't included in that comparison. Do they not have RV parking, RV camping there?
These are just ones that we selected. There's a lot more, Commissioner Neal, that we could have. I just picked these.
Okay.
I will say that over the last year or so, I know Earl Perry very well, the Coastal Georgia RV Resort. He said his numbers have been down, and he doesn't really know what to attribute it to, other than maybe just the economy. But I know if you Google RV camping or camping in Brunswick, Georgia, Blythe Island is the second one that comes up. Earl's is the first, second, and then Southern Retreat is the third. And there's an app that RVers use called RV Life. Well, I looked up on it, and we're not listed, Lisa, so I put us on. So, there's things that apps and stuff out there. And do we have a website that goes directly to that? I need the address to that one. I'm sorry I don't have it.
BlytheIslandPark.org.
Okay.
One of the things.
Yeah, she said BlytheIslandPark.org. O-R-G.
And one of the things that I was thinking that might help us drive our rate is, are we training our staff, which I know is very good, and overall we're very good, but are we soliciting referral comments out when they come in? Are we pushing that on our site plus on social media? And we had talked several times about a community store, expanding that possibility. Where are we with that? I didn't see that in anything today.
Yeah, so we did dive into that as a level. In the past, Mr. Gaines had expressed to me that they have done some store level products, but a lot of people we had a lot of things that expired on the shelves just because it wasn't sold.
And we had talked about the possibility, and we'd have to check the legalities of it all, but providing space and then contract out the convenience store aspect to an outside vendor to run it, and would we get that interest, and would we be able to support that?
In this particular study, we did not go that far. What we use in essence of time, we utilized the visioning program that came out of the 22 study that both the park board, the staff, and county staff did. So we just utilized just the items that came off that list for this particular study. So does that mean that we shouldn't do further study? Yes, sir. I think we do. I think this really just tipped, we're just at the tip of the iceberg of developing that. So while we linked it to the strategic plan, so there are many other activities that can be added. This is the objective was to create a strategic plan, so the activities that and initiatives that we can build up underneath there could be to explore and some comparison of how a general store or a store of some point has been positive to other park campgrounds, and then look at and further study is how can we interact with local, friendlies or something like that could operate that general store versus being a burden or a cost to us. Yes.
Right. And then if you could advance to your matrix that showed the complexity, I think was
yes, sir.
I like that matrix because it sort of categorizes, the priorities. I mean, it sort of spells out priorities for you. But lastly, I'd like to ask about what we need to do to enhance the marina. I think part of the reason why our marina has not brought in revenue has been the reliability of it over the years. I know we were having issues with rail and that kind of thing. I think we're by that, but how do we enhance that component of it? I mean, there's very few launch sites in the county, and Black Island being one should be the premier one, I think, for the mainland at least. And what do we do to enhance that so that we can get higher use out of it? And I know we have to examine what our rate structure and all those kind of things are, the bait and that kind of stuff. But again, that would be where the convenience store component of that could lend to the overall experience of using that marina. So.
And Mr. Gaines, have you received it yet? Because I know you're planning on purchasing an additional motor, so that you'll have a backup.
We've had that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we've got redundancy now. If one were to go down, we've got another motor we can put back up right away. So could be hours, a day or so. Just
hasn't gone down in a while.
So.
And again, it's the aesthetic component of it. Are we providing? And I by no means mean to degrade what the staff does out there. It's run extremely well. It's just how do we enhance it? How do we carry it forward from here and just seek higher goals? And
yes, sir. A qualitative point I'd just like to make. So the one thing about Jekyll, they have a high. We believe that they have a high occupational rate for first-time visitors. It's a high occupation rate for first-time visitors. What we are seeing with Blythe Island Park is that we've got a high rate of return visitors. So you've got a lot of people that are coming back. So where we believe we need to expand is we just need to get more people coming and more people coming back. So by enhancing that experience, that's going to keep them coming back.
I congratulate you on what you've done so far. I think directionally it's appropriate that we've done this study, and I would encourage you to go one step further in engaging the DNR. There may be opportunities to partner with them that might enhance the utilization of the marina there. I don't know what they have planned in the Turtle River, Brunswick River Basin for any kind of fishing reef, et cetera, but there may be an opportunity there that could be a little nugget that would help, since the marina itself is not producing the revenue perhaps that it could. And so every dollar you produce there is going to be more valuable than you are on the other part, because that's the one that's pulling you down. But I like the direction. Thank you.
Good point, Commissioner Duncan. And is there also a master plan out there for us to look at of what the future of Blythe Island Regional Park is to be? And
Yes, sir. The upper right-hand corner of that is basically, in essence, is a visioning session, but it's also a quasi-master plan layout of what these elements, where they would go within the park. Yes, sir. Does it need to be expanded? It does, and we discuss that. Some of the things that we discuss also is the size of that park, the landmass. There's also the opportunity to look at making, quote, a community park within Blythe Island Regional Park. So that'll be a part of the overall Parks Master Plan that we're looking at.
I would really like to see something like that come for us that we can really think of, put our eyes on.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. I was out there Saturday. What is the timeline for the gangway and the pier for the at the boat launch to be repaired?
Yeah, I'm going to let Ms. Gerginas, because she's been following up a little closely.
Commissioners, Lisa Gerginas, Recreation and Parks Director. So we've issued a purchase order to a vendor for the gangway replacement. Just took a while to get quotes, and once we got them, we have issued it. I think they think it's going to be at least probably 45 days or more to fabricate and get it installed. Regarding the repairs that were damaged from Helene, the project is currently out for bid, and the bid opening was originally scheduled last Wednesday. The county had some internet issues, and so we had to postpone it. It's tomorrow as of right now. So we're tracking that with our procurement department. It's scheduled for bid opening tomorrow.
Good. And commissioners, that'll help greatly. We were out.
Don't leave you.
Yeah, but that will help greatly, because it is dangerous out there, especially if you're taking your boat out on incoming tide, as we did, and you gotta work that tide and you gotta walk around. So that could be impacting a lot of the folks from coming in and putting their boats in right now, because they got plenty of bait. The customer service is fantastic, helping you get in and get out. My other question is, I know a few years ago, issues in the park with the electrical for the RVs. Are we having any?
No, sir, we're not having any issues.
No new issues.
We spent almost $275,000 to have those sites upgraded to 50 amps, and they're working fine.
They're working fine.
And we're upgrading the bathhouses right now. We actually, bathhouse 1 has been done, the marina bathhouse 3. Bathhouse 2 is currently out for bid, and we're, I think the June 4th, I believe, is the due date for the bids for that. So hopefully we'll get that project going on sometime after July 4th.
And is staff seeing an increase, like pull behind trailers versus full big old RVs? In other words, we're filling up one section and we can't, because I know from past, the folks in the office are awesome about moving people around to create areas. Any issues, like maybe we need to change a few pads to this to accommodate?
We've talked about possibly creating 2 ADA accessible pads, like fully accessible sites next to Bathhouse 2. Pull-throughs are obviously going to be the most popular. Nobody wants to back it in. And so we have a limited number of those pull-throughs. We still have a good crowd of monthly sites. And when you focus solely on the RV campground and take out the primitive, because you're not going to get a primitive camper unless it's hardcore on a day like today. It is way too hot for primitive.
That's right.
And most days, a lot of times, when it's either too cold or wet, and weather plays a huge impact in what happens at the park and who camps. But as far as the RV campground, through April, we were up to, I believe, 48% average daily occupancy. So you have to consider on a Memorial Day weekend, it's close to 100. But on February 15th, in the middle of the week, it's going to be probably around 30 to 40%. It's just not on those days. Weekends are really good. Weekends we're probably in the high 60s as our average occupancy on a Friday, Saturday.
And I think another thing, Mr. Thompson, I think we've talked about it before, people coming in with bicycles, we really need a sidewalk from out front all the way to the boat ramp in there to, increase the mobility and folks are not riding in the roads and stuff, but maybe that's something we look forward to doing. Thank you, Lisa.
And never want to pass up the opportunity to tell you thank you for the job you do for us.
Definitely.
Yes,
Does the boat launch, does it take cash?
we do, yes, sir.
You do take cash?
Yes, sir.
And how is that audited? Is it audited through the RV part of it? So
Everything's deposited at the same, but we do track what's coming into the marina versus. Yes, sir. Unfortunately, we only average on an average day, not Memorial Day, Saturday or Sunday or Monday, but on an average day, with the boat hoist, we hoist about 5 boats a day per average. On an average. On a busy day, obviously it's a lot more than that, but on some days when the weather's bad, the wind's blowing, it's raining, we don't hoist any boats. So, but on an average day, we're at about 5 boats per day. Which is good. It's a service,
Yes. Y'all were at 6 on Friday. We were out there. Yeah, it's during the week. There's not going to be any.
It depends on, and you have to remember too. I mean, Turtle River runs South Brunswick. People like to fish there, but a lot of people like to fish, other places, and so they might rather launch closer to wherever else they're going to go fish.
It's a service we provide.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa, so much.
Hey, Lisa, just one quick question. So that document in the upper right, that was just a couple of years ago, right? So
Yes,
we
sir.
want to circulate that back to the commissioners.
We can, and it is on that BlackIslandPark.org website, but we can certainly circulate that. It's a quick 11-page vision plan. This board did approve it in, I think, August of 2022. A lot of the projects on that plan have been accomplished through y'all's support, so we appreciate it. But there are more things that could be accomplished. Or it's a fluid plan, so if there's new things y'all want us to entertain and look at, we can do that too.
Thank you. Thank you.
It just cost you, right?
Any other questions? No more? You finished, John?
No, sir. I'm next on your agenda.
I'm sorry.
Rhonda Raggan sacked me the other day.
Question regarding a possible ordinance amendment related to the use of bicycles and electric bicycles, e-bikes, on bicycle paths and multi-use paths.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Aaron and I will, Mr. Mumford and I will tag team this one a little bit. I'm sure you'll probably have more questions that he could respond to. I'll cover a couple of the. This is a draft ordinance after last year. Mr. Murray Pounds and Bike Walk Golden Isles came and did a presentation to you. Aaron and his team began to look at a review of this ordinance, and this has been circulated amongst you previously. The intent of this ordinance is not to reciprocate what is already in state law with regard to what you can and cannot do on sidewalks. It is, and then state law allows local legislation to be able to adjust that law, especially on sidewalks. And this is our first attempt. I think Bike Walk Golden Isles has been involved in the review of this, so they provided input. And Mr. Mumford can address that. But what this is it addresses operation of bicycles and motorized vehicles on sidewalks, bicycle paths, and bicycle routes. I'll caveat this. You heard that we received a grant. Our BAPS received a grant a little over $400,000 for a countywide trails plan. So this will kind of really work in tandem with this ordinance rewrite and help drive some of potentially even some additional ordinance changes as we start looking at where our pathways go, which ones are pathways, which ones are true dedicated sidewalks. But what this really addresses as an exception, the operation of bicycles, and allows on our current sidewalks and pathways, it allows for the operation of bicycles Class 1 and 2 electric bikes or e-bikes, electric play vehicles on paths and trails, including bicycle paths, bicycle routes, and multi-use paths. It is expressly permitted except along paths where signs are posted explicitly prohibiting such use, provided they are operated in a safe and reasonable manner consistent with the applicable rules of the road. And just I'll add in and then open up for questions. So we define, and just so we understand and have a common understanding of what is a Class 1 e-bike. A Class 1 e-bike is a pedal-assisted bike that basically the electricity shuts off at 20 miles an hour. A Class 2 electric bike is basically fully electric that does not exceed 20 miles an hour. And obviously, you go up to a Class 3, and they're not authorized on any of the pathways. They would have to be in regular traffic is where they would have to go. An electric play vehicle is defined in this ordinance as like an electric scooter, an electric skateboard, an electric unicycle, or other electric motor-driven vehicle designed to carry a single person and governed in such a fashion that it cannot exceed 20 miles an hour. So I know you've been receiving multiple emails over the past couple of weeks regarding some issues that we're seeing on St. Simons with electric vehicles that are not necessarily in the Class 1, Class 2 category, or they're electric play vehicles that are not in that category that I just addressed.
Well, Mr. Ginger, on that, would a child's electric car, a toy, would that be allowed on these bikes? It's not specifically addressed, but sometimes when the parents would go for a walk, they might want to take it's strictly a toy. It's only going to go 3 or 4 miles an hour or whatever those things will
Yes, sir. I think Mr. Mumford's staff covered that and is such that it's an electric motor-driven vehicle that's governed in such a fashion that it cannot exceed 20 miles an hour. So that would cover that particular question, Commissioner.
That would take care of it.
Yes, sir. And then just for my last comment would be what this does as well as it does prohibit any type of wheeled conveyance. That's even just a regular bicycle in and around Mallory Street, on either side of Mallory Street on St. Simons, between the intersection with Magnolia and the foot of the Mallory Street at the St. Simons Island Pier. So it restricts any type of wheel conveyance. Doesn't matter if it's electric or leg powered. No wheels. You can push it. You just can't ride it.
You didn't feel it, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
And that's already on the books. That's been on the books for a long time.
We don't have a lot of enforcement of
that. That is your ability.
And for our police department e-bikes, they're on the street and not on the sidewalks.
That's correct.
Right. And 20 miles an hour, I mean, we've got to draw lines where we got to categorize it, but if your grandma walking down the sidewalk and somebody is approaching you on an e-bike at 20 miles an hour, that could be scary. So, I mean, I'm not saying we need to lower the speed, I'm just saying, how do we address it, and more importantly, how are we going to enforce any ordinance that we want to impose? And we've got to look at it. We're doing right by considering this today, but how are we going to address? How are we going to enforce? Most of the complaints that I've heard from is basically children, preteen, teenagers that are just flaunting, almost terrorizing people that are walking, and that's got to be a very small percentage of the people that's actually using it. So how do we address this? What suggestions would we have from staff, law enforcement on, being able to address these issues? I see y'all looking at each other. I thought y'all came with answers here.
So there's some options to help regulate and help address those things. That's not in the current draft. This is what we wanted some feedback on today. But you can set enforcement is going to be challenged on this, but you can certainly set some speed restrictions. You can, obviously 20 is the max on type 1 and 2, but you could lower that to 10 or 12. And you can also look at prohibiting reckless behavior, reckless driving, reckless use. You can require them to yield to pedestrians. I mean, you can set reasonable rules like that.
Now that should be part of enacting this thing. Rules of the road. We had talked with one of the work groups of additional signage. You're supposed to on a pedal bike. When you come to an intersection, you're supposed to get off and walk it across. We should have where who yields to whom ordinances. All that should be in our ordinance, and
right. And we can still put those in there. I think enforcement, getting word out, messaging out is important as well. Right, and there's some national, there's other examples, national standards that kind of the same 3 or 4 things seem to pop up. Helmets, age restrictions, or if you are below a certain age, maybe you need some adult supervision. Some of those things we want to look at a little closer, but there are options that we can do to put that in there so that if there is an issue, it gives some enforcement.
And we also talked about to the bike rental shops that rent these e-bikes, that we have rules of the road there that and maybe work to have these shops have some form signed with the rental agreement that says they will adhere to, they have read and will adhere to the ordinances of Glenn County when it comes to this. I mean, we've got to find some way to put some teeth into this, and then so we have some recourse when it comes time to try to enforce.
I'd like to offer a few comments. First of all, under the definitions that we have, these basically is defining what an electric bike is that can achieve 20 miles an hour. That is no way should anyone infer that it's proper to operate 20 miles an hour on a multipath when there are pedestrians present. So I'll get that out there. The other thing is we can, as Mr. Mumford suggested, we can add some additional language here to put some teeth into the ordinance that can make it enforceable, like proper operation or address reckless operation. I think that's very important to do. In regards to most of the folks that been my limited observation, I'm not on the sidewalks every day or the multipaths every day, but what I observe is mostly young persons that are young teens or even younger than that are mostly being boys. And they behave this way whether it's a pedal device or it's one that has an electric motor on it. So I think we need to deal with those, and we can. It might mean that one of these young persons gets stopped by an officer, and he takes that child back to their parent and explains to them that, hey, this is not the way to behave. Otherwise, we do have the option that they can be fined or the adult could be fined. The intent is to correct the behavior and also to have an ordinance that can address that kind of behavior. And I think directionally this is good. We just need to modify it a little bit, just as Mr. Mumford suggested, that we have a few items in there that gives our law enforcement reasonable room to address the bad behavior without trying to define the exact speed that they can be operated. Because after all, I don't know that we have the electronics available to monitor someone that's doing 10 or 12 miles an hour, and if they exceed that, I think that would be very difficult to support if a parent or another adult wanted to challenge that. But I think we get reasonable language in here, take a common sense approach to have the ordinance in place. Then I think we'll be a long ways there in terms of educating the users of those multipaths. And then we also have to know that if a user observes errant behavior and they're concerned by that errant behavior, sending me an email or any one of you an email is not going to get that errant behavior addressed. They'll need to act as they might any other time if they observe someone speeding on that highway. They don't need to stop and send me an email or you an email. What they need to do is contact law enforcement, because that is the only authorized persons to interdict that kind of behavior, whether it's on the highway or it's on the multipath or sidewalks. The other thing I'll offer is that some of our concrete ways, whether we define them as sidewalks or multipaths, are just a little bit too narrow, because our right-of-way is limited and we have a legacy situation where I'll just use the example of Demery between Sky Lane and Ocean. That sidewalk is only about 4 feet. And it also touches the asphalt. It's all flush. So that might be a place that we want to prohibit the use of these electric vehicles, so that when pedestrians are walking on there, there's room for a pedestrian to walk, and one doesn't have to exit that pathway to avoid the other. So there might be some there, and I'm thinking that Mr. Gentry, probably Public Works, could tell us the recommendation for us to make a decision as to whether we include that into the ordinance or not. So those are my thoughts.
And again, I think that gets back to, if we define who yields to whom, who would have the right of way in these, especially when we get to more narrow paths. But it is something, and we don't want to ultimately punish the masses for the behavior of the very few. So we're striving to find that balance.
And I think I couldn't agree with y'all more. The speed, we can get wrapped up in that, but these same kids that are on e-bikes were on bicycles last year, cutting off people with knee, walking along, minding their own business. And honestly, the county PD needs directive. If you see somebody popping a wheelie or cutting off an elderly person, I don't care if they're going 5 miles an hour, you knock that person down, you're going to do some harm. Give them the directive. Just forget about the 20 miles per hour right now. But we've got a small percentage, because 95% of the people out there on e-bikes are doing right. But we got these punks, and that's what they are, on skateboards, on rollerblades, whatever they can to be a nuisance. And that's what the county PD and the sheriff's office and the city police need to be looking out for, and pull them to the side. If you see them, call their mom and dad. Get their mom and dad out there. Yank a knot in their butt and get them off of doing this, because at some point, some elderly person or a 40-something-year-old person is going to get hurt by somebody's punk actions because they think they're showing off or whatever. But I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Duncan and Commissioner Neal. We just need the county PD needs directive of what to look for, and like I said, popping a wheelie, cutting somebody off, whether you're going 5 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour, showing your butt, we need to cut that out. And then we got to make some examples of a few, so the majority of the people that behave themselves aren't going to get caught up in this ordinance and penalized because, hey, they were doing 21 when, they're just trying to go from a restaurant or keeping a car off the roadway, as some people have told me. So I just wanted to be clear for our law enforcement, hey, that's something we need to stop, and we're not going to tolerate that in Glenn County or St. Simons Island or wherever it may be. But that's just my thoughts on it.
John, I myself have seen cars get hit in the door right there where Brogan's North is on bikes. People just don't pay attention, and they end up running into a car. So then fire department has to come over and check them. And it's just that people are, I guess, they're not young aren't as considerate as they should be. So, but I mean, I've seen that happen, and I know Bike Walk asked if we could put stop signs on the, on entrances like that. I really don't think we can.
I think there's areas that we might could address that, but by and large, we don't want to create impediments. But you know, it's all part of what we need to look at in the overall picture, and we don't want to be discussing this a year from now. We want to have it resolved. So, you know, if we do something, and if it's not working, then we tweak it, and keep moving forward.
You know, I ride a bike. I don't do it on a regular basis like I used to, but 10, 12 miles an hour is plenty fast enough. You're pedaling hard to stay at that. So, you know, if you can twist the throttle and go 20, 28, that's where we're wrong. Somehow we've got to limit that. I don't know if it's, I know you can set the bikes up to where they'll only go so fast. And maybe that's the part of the solution.
And that's where you get the definitions of 1 and 2.
1, 2, and 3.
We would, or if y'all passed it, allow type 1 and 2, which has a max speed of 20. Now, you can certainly, I think, engineer it so it goes faster, but as they come off the assembly line, they shouldn't exceed that. And then anything beyond that, type 3, we could explicitly prohibit on that. But there are certainly things that we can, best standards, kind of guidance, we will present and put those in there and work with staff, police department, make sure that, we have all that covered and give you all the drafts if there's anything else you want to add or take away.
Well, we've had numerous discussions on this here before, and I don't know if we developed rules for the road that we wanted to talk about and present. If we developed anything, any guidelines that we want to give to bike rental shops. We've talked about this numerous times. It's time to put some of these into effect if we're going to affect behavior.
It could be a time so there's some common rules of the road that most common sense people will adhere to.
Absolutely. And then you got the 2 or 3%
yielding to pedestrians, and especially if you're in a crowd, you're not riding 20 miles an hour on that e-bike. So there's some common sense things, but some of those are not necessarily codified. We could work with, I think our partner there, Bike Walk Golden Isles, has probably got some good common language for a common rules of the road that we could incorporate. Maybe not to necessarily be a part of the ordinance, but also that we can share with the community as a whole. But I think we've got some good language here to take back and work on a revision of this particular ordinance. Mr. Mumford, you had anything else you can think of?
John, I would just suggest that since police and this is ordinance, so code enforcement as well, just make sure they're involved. Let's make sure the county, it's throughout the counties to make sure both the county PD and the sheriff's office are included in the, kind of the next steps. Let's make sure they can enforce whatever we're going to put into this ordinance.
Yeah, and Mr. Mumford, unless we allow, grant code enforcement, really the only enforcer is our police at this point in time. I don't think code enforcement is authorized to be an enforcer of this particular ordinance, so that could help expand capabilities.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, code enforcement could be called out there, and obviously part of this is going to be visually catching this or having it recorded so that you can see it happen. So that is a challenge, but we'll certainly bring our other.
Isn't this basically what Jekyll Island's doing?
Not sure.
Theirs is pretty close because I know they allow 1 and 2. And if it's a class 3, they're not allowed. And if they catch them, then there's a fine.
And that's like anything else. We have on the books ordinances, and we have a complaint, we can investigate it. If there's a video, we can use that. But right, we'll work with the other groups with internally and also externally to come up with some rules that are reasonable and enforceable, and we'll present that back to you all as soon as possible.
Some of your questions, additional questions, Chairman?
I think we've covered it.
Good.
We're good. Thank you, John.
Mr. Chairman, if I could take one privilege, I would like to thank our first responders for their coverage of the air show. What they did, what I was privileged to personally witness from our police, our fire, our EMS, every individual that I saw out there was a shining example for what you see when you come to Glenn County. Our police department, I had the privilege of speaking to a lot of the officers out there that day. They wore a smile. They were patient with some impatient guests, but they represented Glenn County well, and our whole department and staff. I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one that participated in that. I believe it was another shining light for Glenn County. So thank you.
Anything else? We have a need for executive session.
Yes. Yes, personnel.
Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go in executive session for personnel.
Second. Okay. And properly second, all in favor? Thank you. We're in recess. Session.
Come on.
Hey, Quincy, you got us back on? Okay. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, properly motion to come out of executive session. All in favor?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion properly. First and second. All in favor? We're adjourned.